All right, first things first, I will be making a little announcement about my channel on Tuesday. And for those of you who have been watching my channel for at least a couple of months, it's probably not going to come as a surprise. But tune in on Tuesday and I will tell you about what I think are exciting changes that are going to be happening next week. For now, let's dive in. And of course, the first news of the week will go to Model 3 because this is what the hype is all about this year. It's all about the Model 3 and it looks like they are ramping up the production. They are actually trying to make the 1,500 cars made in September milestone. We don't really know if they will or won't. We will know when they report their numbers next month. But for now, it looks like they might not be because the highest VIN that anyone's ever seen, at least at this point, by the end of September, is in the 1100s. That doesn't necessarily mean they haven't made the 1,500 cars, but I don't want to predict. A lot of people are predicting. I don't want to predict. I'm just saying it looks fine, but they might come up short. I don't think it's a big deal because they're still kind of making them not by almost by hand. So, but I know stock market usually freaks out over stuff like that. So I hope they made it, and we will find out soon. Now I have to say that there are a few things they've already reported that have gone wrong with battery packs, and there were other parts that needed to be replaced. But this is why they're doing this the way they are, which means they're selling the cars to their employees. So all of these little issues they can fix by the time they're going to be selling it to the general public, which seems to be probably a lot of us will be getting these emails next month asking us to start thinking about configuring our car. So we'll keep our eye on it. Right now it looks like they're doing well, and I see more and more Model 3s on the road. Just seen one yesterday driving around on the freeway. So I'm excited to see more and more of them by the end of the year when they're going to ramp up their efforts to 20,000 per month. Let's move on to another not such an exciting news as far as I'm concerned, and it is their referral program. A lot of you know I'm not a big fan. I loved it when it came out, when you get $1,000 credit as somebody who's referring another person. They get $1,000 in return. Everything was perfectly clear and I loved it. Then they replaced it with a lot of different variations, and now they've updated it again. So October 31st will be the last day for the current program, and that's another thing I hate, right? Because in my little tracker it says that you have 100 more days by the end of the year, and I was looking at certain set of prizes or milestones to reach, and now they kind of changed it on me, and now I'm no longer sure if I really like those prices or that structure. So first of all, the good thing is that they've added solar, meaning their solar panels and Powerwall, it seems, so you can refer people to that. And those who are going to be buyers are going to get 5 years extended warranty. Those of us who are going to be referring them will get either $750 credit or $400 cash. And that's if you refer anywhere from 1 to 4, which is a bit weird because there's a big difference. 1 solar roof sold versus 4. I would assume the prices would be different, but it's the same. Now on 5th one, you get a Powerwall. So I'm not quite sure if that's a good incentive structure, but that's what they have. Well, that's what they have. Now there will be, for cars, for Model S and for Model X, there will be no more $1,000 off, which is kind of weird. It's really the only way to get a tiny little discount on the pricing that's non-negotiable at this point. So that's disappointing. They will still get free supercharging, but the list of prizes has kind of changed around. First of all, the referring 1 or 2 customers is no longer going to be distinguished. So if you refer 1 or 2 people, you will still get the same prize. Now, it used to be there were 2 different prizes. Now it's the same thing. So that's a little bit disappointed. Not quite sure why they took something like that away. I don't think it was that big of a deal, but I think it's a big deal to us. And most importantly, the prizes, you can exchange some of them. You have a choice now, which is great. But some of them don't make sense. For example, the wheels, the custom wheels that they're selling, they're being priced at what, almost $7,000. The alternative price for that is you can rent a Model S or Model X for a week. Now, I believe I just saw a rate at the local enterprise Exotics at $300 a day. So really that's about what, $2,100 value. That's not even a third of the wheels that are going to be worth, just like I said, almost $7,000. So I'm not really sure why those prices are not of the same or very close value. And again, it's begin too complicated. Of course, as you know, there are two more other levels with the next-gen Roadster, which we don't even know when it's going to come out, and with a boring machine ride. So I really wish they would just go back to basic, where it's very simple and no more complicated. There's just no levels. The more you referral, the more stuff or credit you get back. So a little disappointed, but that's what it is. They outline it on their website, so you can definitely check it out and see exactly what prices are now going to be available and for what kind of referrals. Let's move on. Let's move on to China. Now, they've been kind of trying to take a role of the world leader in electric cars because, you know, they're literally dying over there from all the pollution. And, well, at first it was a little bit disappointing because they decided not to have guidelines for the next year, 2018, but they will definitely put them in place for 2019, which means that any car manufacturer that either makes or imports over 30,000 cars in China has to have at least 10% of them to be either fully electric, hybrids, or hydrogen-based cars. 10% is not exactly a huge number, but it's definitely a good starting number. And in 2020, they are going to up it to 12%. Now, you can still buy ZEV credits, so I'm sure Tesla will be selling them all over the place, which is great for them. But that means that, you know, car companies like Toyota and Mazda that, you know, kind of tagging along and really not making that much progress can still be kind of lazy and not very much on the front lines of this movement, probably for another few years. So that's a little bit disappointed, but it's good to see a big country like China is finally setting their requirements. As you know, Germany and France and UK are having their own requirements, but and still be worked on, and the goal is about 2040, I believe, for those. So kudos to China, we'll see, but it is definitely having, you know, yet another signal to consumers and the manufacturers that electric is the future, and it's great to see this. Let's move on to BMW, and they've actually innovated something for the electric cars, which is again great to see, something that's not been innovated by Tesla, and it is a wireless charging pad. So it's very simple. They created this pad where the car will go, just drive over it, and it will charge. I believe it's a hybrid version of the BMW that I believe will do it in 3.5 hours. Regardless, it's good to see BMW actually taking charge, literally, and innovating something. I'm not per se saying that, you know, it's a drag to put the charger in and then out of your car, but this is kind of cool. Maybe it will be built into garages and parking lots. So kudos to BMW. Another company, and very surprisingly so, Dyson is jumping in and saying that there's a technology that they've been working on since 1990s to create an electric car, and they're saying that they're going to make one by 2020. Yes, Dyson, the company that makes hair dryers and vacuum cleaners, is going to take a shot at it. Now, of course, a lot of people, including myself, are skeptical. But hey, another player pushing the world towards green energy, I'm all for it, so we'll see what happens. They haven't enclosed too many details, or really that many at all, but I'm excited to see what they're gonna offer, hopefully in the next year. So let's move on to Mazda and Toyota that I mentioned earlier, and not by accident. These companies have been really lagging the innovation in this department, even though only 10-15 years ago they've been actually pretty technologically innovative companies, and they just kind of gone down the hill. Well, Mazda and Toyota have kind of partnered up, and they're saying that they're going to come up with a few electric cars by 2020. Again, not many details. It just looks like they're investing into it. So I'm still disappointed, but let's see what they do. Not really sure they have to do it together. I feel like they're big enough on their own to kind of get those programs going. But hey, listen. Another two car makers on the bandwagon, that's good with me. Let's move on to Elon Musk, who had a pretty busy week on Twitter once again, and he created a bit of a war that people are kind of liking. Now, I'm personally not a big fan of any kind of Twitter wars, but this one was also a little bit funny. So I guess BMW announced that they're going to invest $1 billion, like I reported last week, into their electric car factory in the United States and a battery factory. And Elon Musk decided to troll them a little bit and said, you know, you guys are kind of missing a zero there. $1 billion is not enough to pretty much compete with us. And Mercedes-Benz actually replied saying, oh yeah, you're right, you know, here's a zero, so there, we'll invest 10 billion into this. And so some people are saying, hey, Elon Musk pushed this giant Mercedes-Benz into this, and I guess it's a good thing, right? I mean, Tesla has been pushing almost everybody into this market. I don't think any of these companies would be producing electric cars if it wasn't for Tesla. But this kind of played out in front of us on Twitter, and it was kind of funny. I don't know if Elon Musk did any favors to himself, you know, having a future competitors invest so much extra money. But I think it's good. And, you know, let's not forget, Mercedes-Benz did invest $50 million back in 2009, and some people said saved Tesla from dying at that point of time. The B-Class, Mercedes B-Class was based on Tesla's technology. So they have worked together before, but then Mercedes-Benz kind of withdrew and didn't do much at all until recently, when they, you know, looks like literally being forced into investing money in technology into electric cars. But it looks like Elon Musk and everybody, I think, is welcoming yet another competitor. We'll see what happens. Another thing that Elon Musk did last week, and announced yet another crazy idea, but, you know, it sounds kind of cool. He basically said, listen, I think we can use our SpaceX technologies, not just to launch people to Mars, but we can actually use the same technology and launch people into rockets on the other side of the world, so you can travel anywhere on the planet basically for under an hour, under 60 minutes. And I think anybody who travels far away, especially often, knows that it's a bit of a drag. So traveling for, you know, 30 minutes or 45 minutes from US to China, for example, sounds really good. So of course he hasn't released too many details. I hope it's one of the ideas that either Tesla or SpaceX or some other companies pick up and go with, but sounds very exciting. And, you know, a lot of his ideas sound crazy at first, and then people pick them up and they become reality. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, the last story is another good, heartwarming story. I reported that Tesla a couple of weeks ago during the Hurricane Irma has extended the range on some of the upgradable battery packs of their cars for free, so people could flee the hurricane. And that was just a good, heartwarming story, and a great thing for them to do as a company that they really didn't have to do. Well, with a hurricane going through Puerto Rico, Tesla has been quietly shipping some of the power walls there so they can rebuild their infrastructure that's been completely destroyed, and those can be hooked up to solar panels, obviously, and provide some extra power that they so desperately need. And Elon Musk personally has donated, I believe, $250,000 to the cause, and I encourage everybody who hasn't yet to donate, because it's definitely a huge disaster, and it's good to see corporations like Tesla help out a lot of times ahead of our government for the people of our country. So I'm going to finish with this heartwarming story. If I missed anything, of course, please go ahead and mention it in the comment section. Of course, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. That's it for me for now. Please stay tuned for my announcement on Tuesday. And until then, I'll see you guys next time. And remember to stay charged.